stand on the Millennium Bridge today, suspended above the Thames between St. Paul's Dome and the Tate Modern's Brick Tower, and beneath your feet flows 2,000 years of ambition, cruelty, genius, and survival. London is the screech of the tube at Leicester Square, the roar at Wembley when England scores, the opening riff of Waterloo Sunset, the smell of curry and chips on a rain-soaked Friday night. It is Shakespeare and Stormzy, the Sex Pistols and the BBC, double-decker buses and the skyline that gave us the Gherkin, the Shard and the walkie-talkie. But this empire of glass and steel was not inevitable. London has burned to the ground. Twice. It has buried a third of its population in plague pits. It has been bombed for 57 consecutive nights, entire neighborhoods erased in fire, and every single time it rebuilt, angrier, louder, richer, stranger. In the next 30 minutes, you're traveling from 43 AD to 2024, from a wooden bridge over a wild river to the financial capital of Europe. We're covering 8 empires, 6 languages, 4 religions, 2 world wars, and 1 unshakable truth. This city refuses to die. Using AI-assisted reconstructions based on period artwork and archaeological evidence, we'll resurrect the faces and streets that time erased. By the end, you'll know why emperors, kings, dictators, and plagues could not kill London. This is the story of the most important 33 square miles on Earth, and it begins with fire. Dusk, late May, 60 AD. A Roman centurion stands on the north bank of the Thames, where Cannon Street will one day run, and watches his world burn. Behind him, timber warehouses collapse into flame. The Forum, barely 15 years old, is a skeleton of charred beams. Across the river, 10,000 Iceni warriors advance under Boudica, the queen with nothing left to lose. Her husband is dead. Her daughters have been violated by Roman officers. Now she brings vengeance. Londinium is 17 years old. It is not yet a city. It is an experiment. The Romans built it here for one reason. This is the lowest bridgeable point on the Thames. Engineers sank oak pilings into riverbed clay and built the first fixed crossing in 43 AD. Within a decade, Londinium is the hub of Roman conquest. Military supplies flowing north, British grain and silver flowing south. But geography is double-edged. This city sits in a floodplain, surrounded by malarial marshes, exposed on all sides. No hills, no natural defenses, just a timber trading post at the mercy of anyone angry enough to march. On the night of the burning, Boudica's forces slaughter everyone they find. Tacitus claims 80,000 died across 3 cities, though the number is propaganda. What is certain? Londinium burns to bedrock. Archaeologists have uncovered a red-orange layer of scorched clay, burnt daub, melted coins, human bones, a destruction horizon 10 inches thick. Rome rebuilds. Within 20 years, the second Londinium rises. Stone forum, timber amphitheatre seating, 7,000. Public baths with underfloor heating. By 100 AD, it is the capital of Britannia, home to perhaps 30,000 people. The city sprawls. Streets are laid in grids. Potters, blacksmiths, butchers, entire neighborhoods of trade. Around 200 AD, Rome builds the wall. 3 miles of Kentish ragstone, 18 feet high, enclosing 330 acres. Gates are cut at Aldgate, Bishopsgate, Newgate, Ludgate. You can still trace its path today. The street named London Wall follows the ancient line. Inside, a governor's palace, a basilica, warehouses stacked with wine amphorae. Outside, cemeteries, because Roman law forbids burial within walls. But the empire is cracking. By 350 AD, Saxon pirates raid the coast. Christianity spreads. In 410 AD, Rome officially withdraws. The city does not collapse overnight, but it bleeds out. Trade stops. The amphitheatre is abandoned. Within 2 generations, Londinium is a ghost town. The scar, an empire's infrastructure left to rot. The gift, the street grid, the wall, the bridge site, and the idea that this location is destiny. The Romans are gone, but the river is still here. Morning, early summer, 650 AD. A Saxon farmer walks through the old Roman gate at Aldgate, leading a cow, and the city around him is silent. Weeds crack the paving stones. The basilica is a roofless shell. For 2 centuries, the Saxons have avoided this place. It is cursed, they believe. Haunted by Roman ghosts, they settle in wooden halls, surrounded by fields, not within stone walls that remind them of a dead empire. So they build Londonwick, London trading town, a mile west, around what is now Covent Garden. By 700 AD, Londonwick is a thriving port of perhaps 10,000, trading wool, slaves, and pottery with Francia and Scandinavia. But inside the old Roman walls, silence. Life is short and brutal. Most people live in timber-framed houses with thatched roofs, sleeping on straw. They drink ale because the Thames is filthy. Disease is everywhere: dysentery, smallpox, worms. Women marry at 14, bear 6 or 7 children, bury 3 or 4. Average life expectancy, 30 to 5 years. The Saxons adopt Christianity in the 600s. St. Paul's Cathedral is founded around 604 AD on the highest ground inside the old walls, a wooden structure that will burn and be rebuilt 9 times. Then come the Vikings. The first dragon-prowed longships appear in 842 AD, and Londonwick burns. The Danes return in 851 with 350 ships, the largest Viking fleet ever recorded in England. Londonwick is sacked repeatedly. The old Roman walls, abandoned for 400 years, suddenly look attractive. The scar, 2 centuries of decline, a great Roman city reduced to rubble. The gift, the walls still stand, waiting. That someone is coming. His name is Alfred. October 886 AD. King Alfred of Wessex, 37 years old, scarred by war, stands inside the old Roman walls and makes a decision that will echo for 1,000 years. He is reclaiming Londonburg, not the Saxon town outside the walls, the old Roman fortress. Alfred is the only English king ever called great. For 15 years, Danish Vikings have conquered most of England. Only Wessex survives. Alfred rebuilds inside the Roman walls. He dredges the waterfront, lays out new streets in a grid that still exists today: Cheapside, Cornhill, Lombard Street. He fortifies the bridge. Within 20 years, Londonburg is a functioning town of 15,000. But the Vikings are not finished. In 994, King Olaf of Norway and King Sweyn of Denmark besiege the city. London holds. In 1013, Sweyn finally takes it. Then, in 1014, the Saxons retake it. King Ethelred orders his forces to tie ropes to London Bridge supports while Danes are crossing, and pull. The bridge collapses. This is likely the origin of London Bridge is falling down. By 1042, Edward the Confessor builds Westminster Abbey 2 miles upriver and moves the royal court there. The split is born. The City of London, walled, mercantile, independent, and Westminster, royal, religious, governmental. That division defines London today. Then comes 1066. Edward dies. Harold Godwinson is crowned. William of Normandy invades. At Hastings, Harold is killed. William marches toward London. The citizens bar the gates. William circles the city, burning every village in sight, and waits. London opens the gates. On Christmas Day 1066, William is crowned at Westminster. He promises to respect London's privileges. Then he builds the Tower of London, a stone fortress to watch the city and remind its people who holds the sword. The scar, the end of Anglo-Saxon England. The gift, William's promise binds crown and city in a partnership that will make both rich. The Normans are here. Everything is about to change. Thursday, June 13, 1381, noon. Wat Tyler, a roofer from Kent, 30 years old, rides through Aldgate at the head of 60,000 furious men, and London does nothing to stop him. The gates are open. 14-year-old King Richard II is trapped in the tower. Behind Tyler, farmers, blacksmiths, priests, men who are done with serfdom, done with the poll tax, done with lords who own their labor. This is the peasants' revolt. For 3 days, London belongs to the mob. They burn the Savoy Palace. They drag the Archbishop of Canterbury from the tower and behead him. They execute Flemish merchants and tax collectors in the streets. On June 14th, the boy king meets Tyler at Smithfield. Tyler makes demands. Richard agrees. Then the mayor of London stabs Tyler in the neck. The revolt collapses. Within a week, the leaders are hanged. But rewind 300 years. In 1066, London is 25,000. By 1300, it is 80,000, the largest in Britain. The Normans brought stone. The tower is rebuilt as a fortress palace. Westminster Abbey is reconstructed in soaring Gothic between 1245 and 1269. Parliament begins meeting at Westminster in the 1200s. Medieval London is a maze. Streets twist, overhang with upper stories that nearly touch. There are no sewers. Waste is dumped into open channels. The Thames is both water source and sewer. Typhoid, dysentery, and cholera are constant. Women brew ale, bake bread, work as midwives. Most marry young, bear many children, die before 40. Then, in 1348, comes the Black Death. It arrives in September, carried by fleas on rats. Within 18 months, it kills between 30 and 50%, perhaps 40,000 people. Bodies are dumped into mass graves at Smithfield. Entire streets are abandoned. Survivors demand higher wages. The feudal system begins to crack. The plague returns in 1361, 1369, 1374. By 1400, London's population has barely recovered to 50,000, but the city is richer. Merchants build stone houses. The wool trade makes fortunes. Goldsmiths on Lombard Street begin lending money. Early banking. By 1400, London Bridge is lined with shops and houses. Heads of executed traitors decorate the southern gatehouse. The Tower is palace and prison. Westminster is government. Cheapside is commerce. The Scar, tens of thousands dead, buried in pits. The Gift, a merchant class that refuses to bow, and the birth of capitalism. But fire is coming, and plague will return. January 21st, 1549. Thomas Seymour, 40 years old, Lord High Admiral, walks up the scaffold steps at Tower Hill, and the crowd presses close. He jokes with the executioner, adjusts his collar. The axe falls. His head is held aloft. The crowd roars. This is Tudor London, glittering, brutal, soaked in blood and brilliance. The Tudors transform London. When Henry VII seizes the throne in 1485, London is 50,000. When Elizabeth I dies in 1603, it is 200,000, the largest city in Western Europe. Henry VIII is the earthquake. In the 1530s, he breaks with Rome, declares himself head of the Church of England, and launches the dissolution of the monasteries. In London, entire religious communities are destroyed. The land is sold to nobles and merchants. The wealth flows into royal coffers. But Henry's revolution is a bloodbath. Sir Thomas More is beheaded in 1535 for refusing to accept Henry as head of the church. Anne Boleyn is beheaded in 1536 on false charges. Henry builds palaces, Whitehall, Hampton Court, St. James's, but he dies in 1547, the treasury nearly empty. His son, Edward VI, rules 6 years before dying of tuberculosis. Mary I takes the throne and burns nearly 300 Protestants at Smithfield, earning the nickname Bloody Mary. She dies in 1558. Elizabeth I becomes queen at 25, and her reign is the Golden Age. The population doubles. The Thames is choked with boats. The Royal Exchange opens in 1571, and London becomes a global trading hub. Ships return from the New World with tobacco and sugar. And then there is the theatre. In 1599, the Globe Theatre opens on the South Bank. It seats 3,000. William Shakespeare, an actor from Stratford, premieres Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, Macbeth. London is the centre of the English-speaking world's imagination. But the city is filthy. Sewage runs in the streets. Plague outbreaks close the theatres. 1593, 1603, 1625. When plague strikes, the infected are locked in their homes. A red cross painted on the door. Elizabeth never marries. When the Spanish Armada sails in 1588, she addresses troops at Tilbury. "I have the heart and stomach of a king." The Armada is destroyed. Elizabeth's legend is sealed. She dies in 1603, 69 years old, leaving no heir. The scar, hundreds executed for faith. The gift, the English language transformed by Shakespeare, and a city that sees itself as the centre of the world. But London is about to burn. Sunday, September 2nd, 1666. 1 a.m., Thomas Fariner, the king's baker, wakes to smoke. Embers from his oven have ignited the wooden beams on Pudding Lane. Within minutes, flames engulf the building. Fariner and his family escape across rooftops. His maid, too terrified to jump, burns to death. She is the first. By dawn, 300 houses are gone. By Monday night, the fire has leaped the Thames. For 4 days, the Great Fire burns. King Charles II himself joins firefighting crews. When it dies on September 6th, 87 churches are gone, including medieval St. Paul's Cathedral. 13,000 houses are destroyed. 87% of the city. 70,000 are homeless. Only 6 deaths are recorded, though the true toll is higher. But rewind to 1665. London suffers its last and worst plague. It begins in spring in the slums of St. Giles, spreads through the city, and by summer is killing 7,000 a week. The wealthy flee. The poor are locked in their homes. By early 1666, it has killed perhaps 100,000, a quarter of the population. Mass graves are dug outside the walls. Then comes the fire. Architect Christopher Wren proposes a radical redesign. Wide boulevards, logical grids. It is rejected. Property owners want their land back. But Wren rebuilds St. Paul's in Baroque style, topped with a massive dome. Construction finishes in 1711. He designs 51 new churches. The skyline is transformed. London is rebuilt in brick and stone. Parliament bans timber construction. The new city is fireproof, grander, and, for the first time, insured. The fire gives birth to modern insurance. But political fire is also coming. In 1642, civil war erupts. London sides with Parliament. In 1649, Charles I is beheaded outside Whitehall. A republic is declared. Oliver Cromwell rules as Lord Protector until 1658. His Puritan government bans theatres, Christmas, maypoles. London becomes joyless. The Republic collapses. In 1660, Charles II returns from exile. The Restoration brings theatre, fashion, coffee houses. By 1700, there are over 500 coffee houses. Lloyd's of London begins in Edward Lloyd's Coffee House. The London Stock Exchange originates in Jonathan's Coffee House. Modern finance is born over coffee. In 1688, another revolution, this one bloodless. Catholic James II is deposed. Protestant William and Mary take the throne. Parliamentary supremacy is cemented. In 1694, the Bank of England is founded. London is now the financial heart of an expanding empire. The scar, 100,000 plague dead. The city burned to ash. A king beheaded. The gift, a rebuilt city in stone, modern finance, and political settlement that limits the crown. The world is about to change, and London will lead it. November 13th, 1843. A 7-year-old boy named Charles Dickens wraps pots of boot polish for 12 hours a day in Warren's blacking factory. His father is in debtor's prison. He will never forget this child labor, this poverty in the richest city on earth. 30 years later, he will write Oliver Twist and Hard Times, novels that expose Victorian horror. By 1800, London is 1 million people. By 1900, it is 6.7 million, a sprawling, smoke-choked colossus that dominates global trade and empire. This is the century that makes modern London built on coal, iron, exploitation, and ambition. In 1802, the West India Docks open, the first enclosed dock system. By 1830, the docklands stretch for miles. Ships arrive from every corner of the British Empire. Sugar from the Caribbean, tea from India, cotton from Egypt. London is the warehouse of the world. The money is staggering, and much is blood money. London financiers grow rich from the slave trade. Even after Britain abolishes slavery in 1833, London profits from goods produced by enslaved people. The legacy is written into Georgian townhouses and monuments. Then comes the railway revolution. In 1836, London Bridge Station opens. By 1860, 9 major terminals ring central London. The railways bring food, coal, people. The population explodes. The poor are displaced into ever denser slums. In 1863, the world's first underground railway opens, the Metropolitan Railway. By 1900, electric trains run on deep-level lines. The tube becomes iconic. Victorian London is extreme. In the West End, the wealthy live in grand townhouses. In the East End, families of 8 share single rooms. Cholera epidemics ravage the poor. 1832, 1848, 1854. In 1854, Dr. John Snow traces the source to a contaminated pump on Broad Street and removes the handle, stopping the epidemic. The Thames is an open sewer. In 1858, the stench is unbearable. The Great Stink. Engineer Joseph Bazalgette builds 82 miles of underground sewers, completed in 1875. The system still functions today. In 1888, Jack the Ripper murders at least 5 women in Whitechapel. The case is never solved, but it exposes brutal East End conditions. Culture explodes. The British Museum, National Gallery, Victoria and Albert Museum, Natural History Museum. London is the intellectual capital of the empire. In 1851, the Great Exhibition opens in the Crystal Palace. 6 million visit. It is a statement of British supremacy. But the empire is violent. London finances wars of conquest, opium wars, Indian rebellion, scramble for Africa. By 1900, Britain controls a quarter of the world. London is the capital of the largest empire in history. By 1914, London is 7.2 million. The Edwardian era is confident, elegant, blind to the coming storm. Then, in August 1914, war. The scar, millions in squalor, wealth built on slavery and empire. The gift, railways, sewers, museums, social reform, and global reach unmatched in history. But the war will change everything. September 7th, 1940. 4 p.m. Violet Reagan, 34, hears the air raid siren and runs. The sky is black with Luftwaffe bombers, 348 aircraft. She makes it to Warren Street tube station and huddles with 200 others. Above, the East End is on fire. The Blitz has begun. For 57 consecutive nights, German bombers pound London. By May 1941, Over 43,000 civilians are dead. 1 million houses are damaged or destroyed. St. Paul's survives, its dome standing amid flames in the war's most iconic photograph. Londoners endure. Every night, 170,000 sleep in the tube. King George VI and Queen Elizabeth refuse to leave Buckingham Palace, even after it is bombed. But rewind to World War I. It begins in August 1914. Factories shift to munitions. Women replace men in offices and transport. Zeppelin raids terrify the city. By 1918, over 700,000 British soldiers are dead. The cenotaph is erected in Whitehall in 1920. The interwar years bring jazz, Art Deco, and women's suffrage in 1928. But the 1930s bring depression. In 1936, the Battle of Cable Street sees 20,000 residents block fascists from marching through the Jewish East End. Then, September 1939, war returns. The Blitz ends in May 1941, but V-1 and V-2 rockets resume bombing in 1944. Over 9,000 are killed. On May 8, 1945, Victory in Europe Day, a million floods central London. The war is over, but London is shattered. Rationing continues until 1954. Reconstruction is slow. The Labour government builds council estates, Barbican, South Bank, brutalist towers for the working class. In 1948, the Empire Windrush docks carrying Jamaican immigrants, invited to rebuild Britain. This begins the Windrush generation. By the 1970s, Brixton, Notting Hill, Southall, Brick Lane are centres of immigrant communities. Notting Hill Carnival, begun in 1966, becomes Europe's largest street festival. The 1960s bring youth rebellion. Carnaby Street, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones. London becomes the music capital. In 1966, England wins the World Cup at Wembley. The 1970s are brutal. Economic crisis, strikes, IRA bombing campaigns. The 1980s bring Thatcherism, the Big Bang of 1986 that deregulates finance. Canary Wharf rises, but inequality explodes. In 1997, Princess Diana is killed. 1 million line the streets for her funeral. The 2000s bring optimism. The London Eye, the O2 Arena. In 2005, London wins the 2012 Olympics bid. The next day, July 7th, suicide bombers strike, killing 52. London mourns, then rebuilds. Again, the 2012 Olympics are a triumph. But challenges remain. The 2011 riots, the 2017 Grenfell Tower fire killing 72, COVID-19 in 2020, Brexit ending London's EU role. Today, London is 9.7 million, over 40% foreign-born, 300 languages, one of the most diverse cities on Earth. The skyline has exploded. The Shard, the Gherkin, the walkie-talkie. The Elizabeth Line opens in 2022. You can still walk Roman walls, stand in the Tower, visit Churchill's war rooms, ride Blitz shelter tube lines. Every layer is visible. 2,000 years, 8 empires, 14 governments, 12 plagues, 5 great fires, 2 world wars, and London is still here. This city survived Boudica, survived Vikings, survived Normans, survived the Black Death, survived the Great Fire, survived the Blitz, survived the IRA, survived 7/7, survived Grenfell, survived COVID. It burned, it rebuilt. It was bombed, it rebuilt. It flooded, it rebuilt. It was torn by civil war, religious violence, class hatred, terrorism. And every time, it came back louder, stranger, richer, more defiant. What defines London is resilience. The same bloody-mindedness that made Saxons open gates to Alfred, made medieval citizens defy kings, made Blitz survivors sleep in the tube and wake to fight fires. That stubborn refusal to die. This city built wealth on empire, on slavery, on exploitation. It has never fully reckoned with that darkness. But it also gave the world Shakespeare, parliamentary democracy, the abolition movement, the Beatles, and the idea that a city can belong to everyone if it fights for it. London is not one story. It is 10 million stories, layered like geology. If you are from London, every street you walk is a palimpsest of 2,000 years. If you are not, you now understand why this city is not just a place. It is an idea. The idea that you can burn a city to ash, bury it in plague pits, bomb it for 57 nights, and it will still stand, because cities are not buildings, they are people. And people do not give up. If you found it valuable, hit that like button. Subscribe for more cities resurrected. Drop a comment. Which city next? Rome? Paris? Istanbul? You decide. From Londinium to the Shard, from timber huts to the Tube, from 40 soldiers on a muddy riverbank to 9.7 million speaking 300 languages. History never ends. Neither will we.